Okay, hello you beautiful people, welcome back. In this update, we're gonna check out Ondo's price chart and see what is happening in the short term. But before we get into the technical side, I wanna real quick talk about this important news. And most people, I think they're gonna scroll past this because it didn't really have JPMorgan or maybe Senate in the headline. However, I think this might be a very important strategic partnership with Ondo. Now, in case you don't know, Broadridge is the company that processes proxy voting for over $10 trillion in assets every single year. And you need to think of it as like the backbone of shareholder communications for essentially all of Wall Street. Now, they just plug directly into Ondo's tokenized stock platform. And here is what this means in practice. You see, holders of only and only on those 250 plus tokenized stocks, meaning if you have something from excess stock, no, that doesn't really count. Only and only holders of on those tokenized stocks and ETFs can connect their wallet and vote in shareholder events and view regulatory filings exactly the way a traditional brokerage account works. Now you might say, well, okay, is this important? I think so, yes, because you see, up until now, critics had a legitimate point. They were saying that tokenized stocks weren't really truly equivalent to owning real stocks if you couldn't vote. Now, that gap, in Ondo's case at least with this partnership, is now closed, and closing it is not really just a product feature. No, it's actually, in many cases, a decent compliance unlock. You see, it's very important to note that pension funds, asset managers, and family offices have rules to prevent them from holding assets that strip governance rights from clients. Ondo just made its tokenized stock eligible for a class of institutional capital that was previously blocked just for compliance reasons, and specifically, again, just for not be able to vote in shareholder events. Now, with this partnership, those problems, they are basically gone. So again, I do believe this is probably going to attract maybe a little bit more adoption. I'm not going to come here and say this is going to make all the difference. Nope, that just doesn't make any sense. However, I do think this is overall one more step towards the right direction. So let's zoom out real quick and have our final conclusion. You see, basically in under only a year, Ondo has stacked JPMorgan and MasterCard for settlement infrastructure, Franklin Templeton for TradFi asset distribution, EU and also Abu Dhabi regulatory approvals for global access, also a conditional SEC filing for United States retail access, and now they have partnered with Broadridge for governance rights and institutional compliance. Each one of these alone is a major headline, and together I think we can say that they form a wall that competitors would need years and years to replicate. And by the time that anybody tries, Ondo will probably be a couple of years deeper into the network effects and institutional relationships. Hence why Ondo, even at that point, is still going to have a much higher chance to attract more and more adoption relative to the competitors. So again, this isn't really something massive. However, in my view, it's just one more step towards the right direction fundamental wise. And that, my friends, is all we want to see. Now let's go on the live chart and see what is happening in like very short. Okay, here we are. And if you remember, the last time that we were on Ondo's chart, specifically, we were around this area, and the idea was that, well, okay, the fact that in here we got an overlapping of the waves between this phase and also this one can be a bit of a game changer for us, especially because this move, what just happened? This move in Ondo was actually in form of a 5-wave, and I think, yep, it is sort of kind of confirmed that we did have off of the lows a bit of a 5-wave up, hence why we argued hopefully our move up in Ondo is going to continue. But we said whether our move up is going to be like a straight impulse or maybe just some sort of a correction, that could be a little bit off for the base. Nonetheless, we said these areas are not good for opening long positions. Why is that? Okay, simple reason actually. You see, this is a major area of resistance from weekly and daily time frame at the same time, and as long as we are staying under it, I think makes very much sense to argue, no, this isn't really a long opportunity, no matter how bullish in like very, very short term we are looking. And I do believe we do look quite optimistic, and maybe even soon we're gonna have a bit of a move on the upside, but that doesn't really justify opening any kind of long position in Ondo. The only long opportunity that we had, and we talked about it for weeks and weeks and weeks, was actually the one all the way down here. And with you, I also opened a long position, and I told you the moment that we got to about these areas, I was out of my positions. Okay, right now in Ondo, I think we should just watch the current price action and see how exactly is it going to play out, and then wait for some kind of opportunity, maybe long, maybe short, doesn't really matter. We're just short-term traders. Now, here's a very important point. In Ondo, we can consider different cuts. For example, one scenario suggests, again, like I told you earlier, we are bullish, and maybe this is a wave 1, 2, 3 correction for 4 to about this point, and then another move up into wave 5, followed by that we are having a correction down, and essentially this might be a bit of an extension setup, suggesting what? Yep, this is 1, this is 2, and then what? Huge move up into wave 3, 4, 5, which ended immediately we are going to reclaim this important level as a support and break it as a resistance, which the higher band of it is about 47.5 cents. This is basically the most optimistic scenario that we are allowed to consider in Ondo in a very, very short term. However, question for you, are we really that lucky? I'm gonna say nope, most likely not. That's why I want to consider maybe a bit of a pessimistic possibility. Now, here's the thing. One way or the other, whether that 1-2 scenario that I just showed you is in play, or maybe the one that I'm about to tell you, the one way or the other, I do expect probably in the next 48 hours, we are going to have a bit of a move down in order to take this low, because this initial move seems to be a rather strong one down in form of an impulse, and followed by that, we are having a slow move up. So this is 5 down in my view, followed by a correction up, meaning what? The next move could be a good one to the downside. Now, having said this, we can consider different possibilities, and the one that I think might be the most likely one is this. You see, this can be, as opposed to an impulse, just a simple A, B, C in form of a zigzag structure, and this may end up in a 1, 2, and then good move down into wave 3 and 4 and 5 in order to get to about this area, maybe take this low. But then if we are lucky and if we are truly bullish, we have to see a rather strong bounce back. Why? Because this whole pattern at that point, according to the bullish count, can be an ABC in form of a flat structure, which looks like this. This is our initial move down into a correction for B, which in it we're going to get quite close to the previous major pivot high in here, or maybe in some cases we are going to like the smallest margin even take them. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. And then good move down into C, and in most cases we are going to take the low of our A leg, go just a little bit lower, and then that's it, the end of our flat. And from here, then you can expect a rather strong bounce. Now, for our sub waves, you probably know it. ABC into A, ABC into B, followed by a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down into C. And if I just go on the live chart, what do you have in your initial face down from the high side? I think this might very well be just an ABC zigzag down. And assuming that this is an ABC to the upside, well, okay, we can just consider a 5 wave down in order to take the lows. And at that point, hopefully these are going to be the sub waves for an A, B, C in form of a flat structure, and then we're going to gather the power for the next good move on the upside. Right now, I think this should be our primary case in like very, very short term, suggesting, yep, most likely in Ondo, unfortunately, like it or not, our move down is going to continue. Let's get such a phase on the downside, and then at that point, we are going to make new updates and see what might be the next likely move, and are we allowed to overall in Ondo in the midterm consider the final low right in here to be already in somewhere around, if I just hide everything, as you can see, 20.1 cents area. Right now, I think it's a little bit too soon to jump into those types of unnecessary bullish conclusions, but we should, I think, keep this in the back of our minds. So if we see the proper subwaves at that point, we're going to be a little bit more bullish with more confidence. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Ondo. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.